What's up, guys? Welcome to the podcast, episode 5. Yeah. Because last time we threw up our 4s.
Yeah.
Woo!
Is there anything for 5?
4 no more.
Is there anything for 5? Significant?
Fab 5, Michigan back in the day, but other than that, I can't think of anything.
I know about the Fab 5.
Yeah.
Juwan Howard.
I don't know about the Fab 5.
Jalen, whatever his name was.
Yep.
Who's the guy who played for the Timberwolves? Anyway, Chris Webber.
Chris Webber, yeah.
Yeah, the Black Sox.
Yeah.
Man.
This sounds amazing. It's like Power Rangers? What is this?
They were a college basketball team called Fab 5. 5 guys came in together and dominated basketball and wore their shorts. You know, back in those days, the short shorts were the thing.
Yeah.
They're the first group that started wearing long shorts, and
wow.
Yeah, they were a beast team to deal with, and made a few runs, and then Chris Webber made like he ran out of timeouts and tried to call the timeout, and they always make it into the Final Four. I think they made it maybe 2 years in a row, and then ultimately broke up, and everybody went into the NBA.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know about Jackson 5.
Jackson 5.
Jackson 5 is awesome.
True story. First CD I ever had in my Mitsubishi Eclipse was a Jackson 5 CD.
Yeah.
Nice.
Do you remember your first CD in your car?
Mine was probably like Wow or like Kids Bop or something. I don't know.
Surprisingly, I remember mine. I actually had a CD. I feel like that's something worth
deal.
noting, right?
That's a big deal.
Yeah, this generation having a CD in their car.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was a hand-me-down. It was like a Nirvana CD or something like that.
Nice.
I didn't really listen to it, but I do remember having it.
What was your first CD?
Oh, that's a good question. What was your first CD?
Interested.
Very, very interesting. It wasn't my first CD ever, but it was my first one that I had for my car.
In the car.
Yeah. We just got out to Easter.
Yeah.
It's huge. Last week we talked about expectations for Easter,
Yep.
what we thought Easter weekend would look like, and now we're on the other end of it. It was a huge weekend.
Great weekend, phenomenal. Definitely, you know, I'm very much a press forward guy, and so I struggle celebrating in the moment, and I struggle celebrating wins oftentimes, and I tell you guys that all the time. I tell my leaders all the time. I struggle celebrating wins because for me, there's always a hint of disappointment because my expectations are so high. But this Easter, I will say that coming from a year when we weren't even able to meet in person on Easter Sunday in 2020, to coming into this year not knowing really what to expect, and man, it was a great day. You know, no complaints. Definitely celebrating the wins. Definitely some disappointments in things that I feel like maybe shoulda, coulda, woulda, but now we're here on the other side and ready to keep pressing forward.
Yeah. You almost have to, right? Like, I mean, you think about how it's like, it may not feel good to some people, but like you have to do that. You know, you have to look at where you could do better. Like always, you know, like you kind of cut off the feet of the growth if you don't do that.
I will say it is probably, and you guys can speak to this personally from a perspective of working with me, serving with me, I will say it's probably one of the things that I'm the best at, but also the worst at. I think people love that about me whenever I'm doing it for other people, but whenever I'm doing it for them, it almost doesn't feel nearly as good and as healthy. So,
That hit home for you?
I mean, we've talked about this. I mean, we were at, what was our place? Little breakfast place. And I remember us having this conversation.
Yeah, Eggs Up Grill. Eggs Up, we love you.
Shout out. We love you guys. Yeah, I eat everything you have. You're so good. Yeah. Anyways, it was the conversation of, you know, there's some incredible things happening inside the youth group. But I just felt like, personally, I felt like there was nothing to celebrate. And so then we had to have this conversation of like, you need to be able to like celebrate, and it's a place you're at where there's some things you got to fix, and I'm still learning how to do that. There's still times where, you know, I should be saying this was incredible, this was awesome, and I'm not able to separate the incredible things from the things that aren't so incredible, and then I let that overtake and say this wasn't that good. Instead, I should say that was incredible. These are some things we need to work on.
Yeah, and I think everybody struggles in this area in every part of their life. Like, in marriage we say, man, I wish my marriage were X, Y, and Z better, and struggle looking into our marriage and saying, I am so thankful for A, B, and C. Now let me do my part to make X, Y, and Z better. And I think that in our finances, I think that with our ministries, friendships, relationships, things of that nature, in our health, like, man, I'm overweight, I'm fat. We talked about it in, how to get a different chair because I look fat over here. And so then we got a different chair and I still look fat. So, it didn't help any. But the flip side is every time I go to the doctor, my blood pressure is great. My, all of my innards, that's what my memo used to call it. All my innards, they all working right. And so as much as, there are parts of me that I need to do better, I also should be able to celebrate what is going right in my life as well. So anyways, I think a lot of people struggle that with a lot of areas of their life.
And I think you're good at balancing that with us in the office and for your leaders of celebrating those things that are in our lives that are worth celebrating, and then pointing out the things that we need to work on. And I think, like, even when we talk about baptisms, I think a lot of people would just, give like the golf clap kind of thing, but where each person's at and where they're at in their life. And so when to you seeing that transformation take place of where they're at, you're able to celebrate in those moments almost more than anybody, because you've walked that out with that person. And that's just one of those markers of celebration with your people, is the baptism part, salvation baptism. Even things like buying a house, or you're having a kid, or those things that no one might quite understand like you do. They're probably wondering, why are you so emotional? Why are you so intense? Yeah. And that's because you've walked those things out and you've been there for them when nobody else was.
For sure.
Yeah, like trying to, when we have conversations like this, I always try to like figure out what I settle on with what feels right, like with what part of it do I relate to and in my own life and like experiences, like where do I kind of fall in it. And I feel like I really, with this one, I don't know where I find it to be like the healthiest balance of yet, like there's been moments where I try to do the whole like private celebration, public challenging thing, and sometimes it just comes off as like the value of the celebration is now lost with those people.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, like in my own life, like you said, like everybody struggles with it privately and in their own life. Like I've yet to figure out what the best version of celebration challenge looks like.
Because if you're constantly celebrating, then you look arrogant and proud, and it's like, no, I'm not trying to be proud, but also this moment of my life, of this ministry, deserves to be celebrated.
Right.
The last 3 weeks we've had 124 baptisms. That deserves to be celebrated. But the flip side is, for me, I am very nervous to post anything on social media or to say anything about it, because I know in the midst of trying to celebrate what God is doing, that there will be people who misread it and will come against it and almost try to tear down the celebrations and try to make us look arrogant or proud, when that's not the case at all. The case is God truly deserves to be celebrated. And I know people watching this will be like, don't worry about those people, celebrate it. But it's not that I'm worried about those people. I'm worried about the influence that those people have on people in my life and in our church, that they'll see comments that they'll make, or they'll see things that they'll say, or even on their personal page where they'll share something that the church does, and then their friends will pounce on them and wow, you go to a church that's so arrogant and conceited, look at them, they can't even, the Bible says don't let your left hand know what your right hand does. And they're taking scripture out of context, obviously, but it's just one of those things where it's a balance, and I'm not sure, after 12 years, I'm not sure where the right balance is.
Yeah. Like the unfortunate part is that, I don't know how much you want to get into this, but we were talking about like people being tired and things like that.
For
and
sure.
I feel like with this stuff, like I think the celebration of it, to me, I mean, I talked to Johnny the other day. It's like, I feel fueled coming out of the weekend. Like,
Right.
that is what fuels us. Like,
Right.
in ministry, I mean, if you're a part of this, if you're serving, if you're a part of what we're doing, you come out of a weekend like that, and it's like, I mean, this is what it's for.
Yeah.
Like, this is what we're trying to do. This is the like, something incredible happened. I am so pumped for the next part. Like, I am so pumped to do the next thing. I'm so pumped to see what the next part is. And to feel that, like, lag almost, it's like, I don't understand, like, what are we looking for then? You know what I mean? Like, if this doesn't fuel you, what do we look for?
So I'm preaching this Sunday. So thankfully this will be shown after Sunday's message. I think we've convinced ourselves that we will find rest by... So let's say Monday night prayer, it lasts about an hour every Monday night, and it's phenomenal. And I walk away refreshed. No matter how exhausted I feel walking into Monday night prayer, I always walk away feeling refreshed. And so if you were to ask the common man, the common Christian, the person sitting in our pews, if you were to ask them what's more relaxing, what's more restful, sitting at home for an hour, vegging out, watching 2 episodes of whatever your favorite 30-minute show is, or coming to an hour of prayer, what's more relaxing, what's more restful? I would think the vast majority of them would say sitting at home and vegging out watching TV.
Right.
If you were to ask what's more relaxing, going and playing a round of golf, or getting to church on Sunday morning, what's more relaxing, going shopping, or going to a small group. If you were to ask the common Christian, they would put their relaxation in the hands of what our culture has convinced us relaxation looks like. And yet the Word of God says, if you're weary and heavy laden, come to me and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. My yokes literally were put on beasts to control them. And he's like, if you put my yoke on you, it actually is easier for you. And so we get in this concept where rest comes from being in the presence of God, and yet our culture convinces us rest comes from sitting down and doing nothing. Nothingness is not equated to rest, right? So remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy, right? It was a day of rest. It wasn't a day of sitting around doing nothing, right? Like Jesus, whenever... the same portion of Scripture where he says, those of you that are weary and heavy laden, take my yoke upon you, I'll give you rest, all that sort of stuff. The very next verse, he goes into a concept about the Sabbath. And they're frustrated at him because he feeds his disciples on the Sabbath, and he heals a withered hand on the Sabbath. And he says to them, I am the God of the Sabbath. Like, I am the God of... And again, Sabbath is not Sunday. Like, Sabbath is a set-apart time for God, for his presence, for being in him. And so people are exhausted, man, and I'm sorry I went off on a tangent there because I've been kind of studying this all day long, but people are exhausted and people are frustrated and people are overwhelmed inside of ministry all over the world because they're looking for rest to come from sitting out. I just need time to go home, sit on the couch, and watch TV, and I will feel rested then. Yeah. Except for that's not scriptural. Scriptural rest comes from the presence of God. So instead of sitting at home, vegging out, watching TV, if you truly want rest, you should be at Monday night prayer. That's where you're going to find rest. Yeah,
I mean, honestly, I feel that, like, I feel that tangibly. I remember the other day, I had like a few hours of just kind of wasting time because I was in a funk, and I just, just time went by. And I remember coming out of that moment feeling so exhausted. Yeah. Like, I did nothing for 3 hours, but I felt more exhausted than I did all Easter weekend. Right. Just because it was so draining almost because nothing happened, But and then you come out of a weekend like that, and there's almost this sense of, like, all right, what's next? Like, I'm ready for it, So, I mean, it makes sense, I was watching a video the other day of some evangelist guy, and he was talking about going on vacation, and he was saying it was like an evangelism thing on vacation. And at the beginning of the video, it was like 45 minutes of him just evangelizing to people like on this cruise. And at the beginning of the video, he kind of premised that so many people, like Christians, go on vacation to take a break and to rest, kind of in the same concept of, but he's like you find your rest in Jesus. Like, you go on vacation. Just because you go on a cruise doesn't mean that you take a break from the ministry that you're called to.
Right.
You know, like, this is our life. Right. I mean, this is your life. Like, Jesus called you to be your life. Jesus didn't go, give me 10 days to go, like, while he's in town and like, I'm going to go just relax and kind of take a break from everybody. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, when he did that, it was with a purpose. I mean, God was doing something. It was very intentional. You know, it was almost like it was assigned, you know?
Yeah.
And so I just think it's very interesting to see how our minds kind of shape, like you said, how we view rest and how we've assigned it. You know, we look at we're going to go to this place for a week and we're going to do things that aren't work. And then we kind of assign that to also be like, I'm going to take a break from being a Christian for like a week. You know, I'm going to take a break from, and it's just interesting to me, like, where do you think that comes from? Do you think that people have made it such a, almost like an act to a place where, that's where my mind goes, is that it becomes such an act for some people that they want to
break from the act.
Right.
They want to let down their hair and get a little wild. What? Like, what that like that's not what we're called to do. Like, I understand we serve at the church. I understand taking a day off from receiving phone calls and taking time away from, to spend with your family and to not have to reply to emails and Facebook messages and things of that nature. I totally get that. Like, that to me makes sense. But to take time away from being a man of God, I don't understand that. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. I don't see a break ever in that. I don't understand the concept of somehow I can put on hold my calling, who God wants me to be, because for some reason I've convinced myself that it's that calling and who God's called me to be tired. I think a lot of times we think that like a rest or a vacation or something is to like calibrate that, like to put us back on a course, and in doing that, we, like, if for some reason if we go on that rest or vacation and stop that whole, almost like an act, like almost like, okay, I'm just gonna, everything that I was doing at home, I'm not gonna do anymore. I'm just gonna calibrate myself. I think that's the opposite of it. I think even when, like, we're doing those things, like we're, like, even when we're cruise or going on a week vacation or even a sabbatical, like you hear about people going on 15, 20, 30, 40 day sabbaticals. It's not a I'm just going to go sit on the beach and drink lemonades, It's like no, I'm spending some time with God. Like, it's anytime we're calibrating ourselves, it's not from just I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to do like what I think would make me feel good. It's I'm spending time with God, and I'm becoming even more full in that calling.
Right before COVID hit, 2019, end of 2019, last few months of it, I gave all of our leaders, all of our directors, a month off.
Except for me. I just got here.
You were new, so you didn't get one. All of our directors a month off. And what I told them was, I don't want you serving, but you better be at church. I want you in prayer. I want you connecting. I want you staying a part of your small group. I want you doing all of the spiritual things you should be doing, except for, I don't want your mind consumed with kids ministry or whatever the ministry may be. I don't want your mind consumed with that. I want you instead having your mind consumed with the things of God, the heart of God, the mind of God. And so take some time off away from your ministry to recalibrate, the word you used, your relationship with God, right? Like, why are you serving? Why are you in this ministry? Why are you doing what you're doing? And so So for me, even living that out here is not a situation where we say, hey, take some time off and, you know, go on vacation. Don't come to church. You know, don't get involved in things. And I'm like, no, that's the opposite of rest. Rest isn't binge watching on Netflix. Like y'all's culture, I don't even claim it anymore. Y'all's culture has convinced people that binge watching Netflix shows are, and I see people posting like almost that they're proud that they've binge watched a season. I mean, you know, you went in COVID and you binge watched The Mandalorian, right?
Yeah, all that.
You know,
stuff.
so
yeah.
but I mean, obviously that's different. You were quarantined.
I had COVID, guys. Take it easy on me.
But like the culture has convinced people that binge watching episodes or binge watching shows and it has almost become celebrated and called rest when it's not a scriptural version of rest, which is why people are so exhausted, because they don't understand rest doesn't come from binge watching shows. Rest comes from the presence of God, and they're running from the presence of God and turning to Netflix.
And you feel almost you're almost made to be the crazy person for saying that God, that His presence, that doing things with God in them are where you feel the most rested and feel like your things are in order, your life is in order. And I have to almost feel like I have to put a disclaimer out there for me personally. I don't know about you guys, but that I want to spend all my time, not that the local church is the presence of God, but that where I feel the presence of God, that's where I want to be, where I feel like I'm being pushed into the presence of God or challenged to go deeper in God. That's where I want to be. And it feels like almost every day is consumed with ministry and local church stuff. And I go back to, not that it's the local ministry or the church, you know, or whatever. It's that when I'm there, it's almost like I come away feeling stronger. I feel more clear. I feel more empowered. I feel strengthened and more healthy, and my life is more structured, and I have more clarity for who I am as a husband, as a Christian man.
Absolutely.
You know, and so I don't want to have to apologize for any time I speak to someone about, you know, their, like, what life looks like and what it should look like. Like, I think, as it seems almost like radical, and radical seems weird to some people, and we really shouldn't have to apologize for us wanting to, for that being our life, for that wanting to be our life is the things of God. You know, it's a tough thing for fighting that thought process of, oh, you spend too much time doing God stuff, church stuff, and when it's really that's what pushes you to go deeper in there, and you feel better leaving those places.
Yeah. So that struck two things. Earlier you said sabbatical, and that reminded me of the first podcast that didn't air. We had a moment of reflecting on church words that people may not know. I know kind of what sabbatical is, but if you could give me a definition for somebody that has no clue what sabbatical means, what does that mean?
Sabbatical in the simplest form would be, and you can probably help me here when you say, no, he's wrong. Someone taking a break. Specifically, a lot of times you see like ministers or even leaders and or anybody taking a break from their normal life to almost like calibrate to find a rest in God's presence for their mind, for clarity.
My bad, that was my
that pop filter didn't work there. No, but almost I spend an amount of time away to get closer with God and to in their mind be refreshed. So
that's accurate.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Yeah, I mean it is not a, you know, I had somebody one time, they told me I needed a sabbatical, and, you know, go away, take your family on vacation, and I said, that's a vacation. And they were like, no, you need a sabbatical. And I'm like, do you know what a sabbatical is? Like, to me, a sabbatical is I'm going into the woods for a week and coming out to see my family, but then going back to spend time with God. Like for me, a sabbatical isn't about taking time off as much as it is about reevaluating or restructuring the way I spend my time to be able to spend all of my time with God. Yeah. Which is why I think
that's good. Yeah.
I think people misassociate a sabbatical. The Church of God, the denomination we're part of, they passed an amendment into our policy that says after a minister's been there 10 years, he should get a 30-day sabbatical. And so, which makes sense to me. But again, the misunderstood version of a sabbatical isn't taking a month off to go fishing.
Right.
That to me is not what a sabbatical is. A sabbatical to me, I should come back from a sabbatical full of vision, full of vigor and passion towards what I'm doing. I should come back from a sabbatical not having time off, but having reevaluated or restructured my time to be able to spend all my time, instead of responding to emails and phone calls, all of my time, investing in my relationship with God.
Yeah, that sounds really, really valuable.
Very valuable.
Have you done that at all?
Did one, but it was actually a December. And so every Sunday we had like the kids' Christmas play. We had maybe like a cantata or something one week, and we had a guest speaker one week. And so every Sunday I was here, and nobody knew that I was gone.
Right.
But through the week I had a little apartment room outside my mom and dad's house, and I just spent all day there, just in prayer, and had nothing but me and my Bible and my, a notepad, and I just spent the whole month of December there. And I'd go to lunch with my wife and go right back to my little apartment room, go pick my kids up from school and take them home and get them, So anyways, yeah, very valuable to me, very, very much needed, and again, misinterpreted, and people look at you and say, "Oh, you just want a month off of work." No, I'm not. It is the concept in, Acts 4, whenever they're like, "I need you to take care of the widows, so that we can give all of our time to, prayer and studying the Word of God." And so, to me, that's what a sabbatical should be. It's a refocusing, a reestablishing your relationship with God to make sure that your vision, your clarity, your heart, your mind, all of those things are pure for the future.
Yeah.
It's not cruise ship and lemonade.
No cruise ship and lemonade.
Right.
No.
I love this topic of rest. I don't know about you guys. I think it's really cool. And it reminded me a while ago, this is like from some point in 2020. There's a message that I talked about with rest, and I was looking into it and what, like, I feel like God spoke to me about it. And one aspect of it that I feel like we didn't get to, and I want to know what you guys think about it, is that I talked about how rest literally means to cease work or movement in order to relax, refresh oneself, recover strength. And I talked about how it was, it's weird to look back on something like from so long ago and to think about how it was transitioned, but it started off with talking about 7 days of creation and God working, but there was work before the rest, and how you can't get proper rest if you were never working or moving to begin with, because that's the point of rest. And some people are exhausted from something that they consider work, but they were never doing something before the rest. And so you're in a constant state of rest because you've never actually benefited from what rest actually is. And it's really interesting because it's like you were talking about. It's like, it literally was like when you lay in bed all day and you get up out of bed, you feel fatigued.
For sure.
You literally feel fatigued because you did nothing, and that caused you, because you never rested, because what causes you to rest is to actually have that, work behind that rest. And so I'm curious to think, like, how many people just aren't doing anything, and so they're just in a constant place of fatigue where there was never something to get the rest to begin with. How many people just don't know what true rest looks like? We did in our devotional for the youth, there was a part that talked about rest, and it's so odd for some people to talk about the value of rest because they'd have no clue what the value comes from, because the thing that comes before rest was never really done.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So how many people do you think that struggle with this concept?
I struggle with this concept.
I think it is a cultural confusion. I think it's a selfish problem. I think we think so highly of ourselves that if the choice is you, Jesus, me resting, I choose me resting, you know, and I think we fight for what we consider rest, but really it's just a laziness about us.
Laziness.
You know,
Sure.
and we call it rest.
Yeah.
But the lazy spirit inside of us that, I say spirit, I don't mean that there's a spirit of laziness, but my mom always told me there was one, but I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if that's biblical or not. But,
I think I dealt with that spirit when I was younger.
But the spirit of laziness that is, whether it's a real spirit or not, but that people are dealing with, is something that they call rest, but in reality they just don't want to do anything. You know, you look at the scripture where Jesus says, "Take my yoke on." You know, like there's literally a burden. It's literally the beast of the burden of the beast, right? It is the thing that is on the ox to tell him what to do, where to go, and how to do it. And so that same concept, when you attach it into Jesus looking at us and saying, "I'm the vine, you're the branches," right? Produce much fruit. Like there's a task to be done. You're attached to me. Here goes the burden. Here's the burden that you are given as you're looking for rest in me. Understand, I'm giving you this burden. Your burden is to bear much fruit. Mm-hmm. And in this, understand that it's going to be easy because you'll find your rest in me. So it's a weird circle, but I just think, man, there's a laziness attached to people that they don't want to work, and they call it, "I need my rest."
Yeah, I think right there the connotation is with the yoke is there's still work to be done.
Work to be done.
Yeah, it's not that yeah, I take the yoke upon me, and that means I can, you know, lay on the couch, you know, and do nothing and not go further in my walk with God. It's that there's work to be done, but in Him it's refreshing. It's easier there. And for me personally, this is something I battled. I'm a lazy guy. And if Johnny had it his way, he's lazy. So I have to really fight that person of, you know, I'm going to work even though I want to, you know, even though I want to sit there and binge watch Mandalorian or, you know, whatever it is. And I think that, like, in resting is easier. Just that practically, resting's easier when you work. And then if you're not doing anything, then you're going to be more tired because you know, there's no energy output. You're
going to be you've heard the word restless.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're going to be restless.
Right. Totally.
Wonder what that means. You know, like, man, I've laid in the bed all day and I've slept all day and I've binge watched shows, and then I'm trying to sleep at night, but I keep tossing and turning. Yeah. I feel so restless.
Right.
Yeah.
Wonder why you feel restless. It's because you haven't rested, and now you're still not resting because you've done no work previous to make rest worthwhile.
And then you want to try to fight against that, and it makes it even harder for you to go against that because you didn't get the rest that you needed in order to accomplish anything. And so I know I'm a better person when I'm working, when I am actively doing something, because I'm able to just, when I get home, Christy knows this, I'll get home, and 5 minutes in, when I hit that pillow, I'm out, son.
Yep.
And so again, that's fighting against that whole laziness and an excuse for me saying, you know what, I've done enough this week, or like even those days we get off. It's hard to sit there and say, you know what, I've got this day off, I've got this day off. I'm going to, you know, I'm just going to take it easy.
I deserve some me time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I deserve to go play golf because
Exactly.
I've worked hard this week.
Exactly. And so when you do that, then you find yourself, even in affects you going into your Sunday, you know, having to fight through some of that tiredness, that restlessness, because of the way you treated yourself, as in you got a dessert or something that weekend.
Because you've convinced yourself that golf was rest.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many layers to this stuff that comes from a lack of responsibility on our part.
100%.
That, like, we start to look at other things and go, oh, it's because of this and it's because of that. And it's like, nah, it's like even people that, so like the other extreme, right? We're talking about rest. The other extreme is the people that say, you know, dude, I work too hard. You know, I work so hard and I'm a workhorse and I don't know what rest even is. You know, these guys are talking about rest. I don't even know what that means. You know, and so like the other extreme of that is we look at poor efficiency and poor scheduling and poor time management, which then pushes us to work really hard in areas that we could have aligned some things better.
100%.
And so now we don't know what rest looks like because we don't want to align, you know, our schedule to a place where it works out. You know, I look at that in my life sometimes. It's like, you know, I've talked to you about this extremity of, you know, I feel like there's so much more, and then there's like, but I don't know where I should let up a little bit. And sometimes it's because of the not really being intentional with the scheduling of it to a place of having to work like double, triple overtime sometimes because of, you know, the not scheduling things out properly. But ultimately you look at all of that and it's like there's places for us to take responsibility for it. You know, there's always a spot where you can look at it and go, I probably could have done something different.
Yeah.
You know, do you got, I mean, to those people who say they work too hard and they don't even know what rest is.
Here's my thing I always say. It amazes me how there's one commandment of the 10 commandments that we are celebrated when we break that commandment, right? Not, you know, don't commit adultery. Everybody's like, man, you shouldn't commit adultery. You know, don't steal, don't kill, you know, man, don't do those things, you know. But there's one, especially in the Christian faith, that whenever you break that commandment, you're celebrated. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Man, I worked all week long. I didn't have a day off. And everybody's like, dang, dude, you're legit, bro.
Right.
Come on. You accomplished some stuff this week, except for you broke one of the 10 commandments. You know, and it's like we're celebrating people for how hard they work, except for God told us, hey, there's a day that you need to set aside and make it holy, make it sacred, sanctify it, right? Like, make sure that this is of value to you. And we don't. And so we celebrate each other whenever. So to those of you that are workaholics, listen, I struggle with this myself. Both of these guys will tell you, I love to work. I love my family. I don't know how they put up with me all these years. You know, I'm like, there's still a little bit of daylight left. Come on, guys, let's go do something. Let's go, you know, knock it, whatever, you know, whatever the next task is. And so there's a bit of me that is attracted to people like that because it is a little bit of inside of me. But at the end of the day, man, there has to come a time inside of our lives where we can truly commit our entire. And listen, if you can't do a 24-hour period right now, okay, I get it. You know, let's start with 10 hours. You know, let's start with 6 hours. Let's start with Monday night prayer. Hey, this is my sacred, sanctified moment with you, God. Every Monday night at 6, I'm going to be here at prayer. You know, like, find some time to sanctify, to set apart, to spend time between you and God and make it holy.
Yeah. Do you guys struggle at all to make the little moments of, like, I hear people talk about, like, there's times where I've said that, like, my car ride is my best time with God. But recently I've been finding that, like, my mind is just so going that if I don't sit down, like, almost turn off lights and sit in a room, it's really difficult to, like, I have to really sit there for, like, 10 minutes of nothing happening for that to be a place of true time with God. So like Monday night prayer, to me that's like nothing's happening. I can sit there unbothered and I can get to that place.
Yeah.
But where car rides used to be it for me, I feel like my mind is just constantly going.
If it's a long car ride, especially early in the morning before anybody else is up, to me, this thing right here, my phone, when it goes off, I don't like having a notification on my phone. I don't like you waiting on me for anything. If you're needing a response from me, I want to respond to you because I feel like that's almost one of my obligations to you. And so for me, it's this. And if this is near me or my watch goes off, anytime I'm trying to be in prayer, I have to make sure phone's away, watch is off. I'm not dealing with those two distractions. And so for me, if it is a car ride, it's always early in the morning when everybody else is sleeping and it's just me out on the road. That's pretty much the only time I could focus in a car. Apart from that, it truly has to be very thoughtful, very planned, very precise. Okay, I'm going in my prayer closet. I'm leaving my phone here. I'm taking off my watch. First thing in the morning for me is great. Making a cup of coffee. I'm sitting looking out the window. Everybody else is still asleep. Maddie's getting ready, and I'm able just to spend time alone with God.
Yeah.
Yeah, and car rides for me are worship times. I'm cranking music, and I am just worshiping. One hand's on the wheel, one hand's in the air.
You do the one hand in there?
Yeah, I'm sure
on the wheel?
I'm sure yeah, it's more comfortable to me.
Is it out the window or is it inside like that?
It's to the side. I think people look at me in the car and think I'm crazy.
Oh, they definitely look at me in the car and think I'm crazy.
But
yeah.
Sometimes I look like I just got through a really bad breakup. It's like
so yes,
I'm air drum and air guitar, and I'm like I'm the full band over there.
Yeah.
Some of my most emotional moments are in the car rides and worship times, and God will just surprise me and say something, and I just start losing it in the car, and it's so there's times like that happens, but usually for me, I have to get up early. I have to make sure there's time, and that's really hard for me. We did a thing during sacred season where we were up at 5:30 every morning. I was up at 5, and that was good for me because again, I was up early, started working. I would go to bed, and it was a nice little thing for me. But there will be that's good for me. I have to get up early though. I can't do anything during the day. Really, there's nothing there for me. During the day, I'm always doing something different, talking to somebody. There's no way to get quiet. I could come in here, lock all the doors, and somehow somebody would get in, and I would have to answer something. So it's got to be morning time, really early, before anybody's up. But besides that, or at night, if Christy's already in the bed or something like that, I'll make sure she's asleep, and then I'll go to the other side of the house and kind of do my own thing. But it's got to be a set aside time. And I don't know who said this, but one of the interesting things were to me, and I hope one day this can be for me, is that I would love to be able to set aside time so much so that I don't have to worry about checking my clock to know when I'm done.
Yeah, amen.
That I would be able to like be able to be so committed to my time spent with God that I don't have to set an alarm and say, okay, Johnny, get out of the prayer closet and go. That it would be I don't have to worry about it. So that for me though, it's a morning and and in my drives, crank the music up and let's get worshiping.
Yeah, that sparks another two things for me. One is I'll say both so we can come back to the other one. One is, why is it so hard to worship? Like, I think of the moments that I'm in the car and I'm just like in deep worship. And then there's people that like you, right? Like you get in the car with me and for some reason it's just so much harder to get there. We do it on a Sunday morning, but for some reason in the car it's so much harder. Why? Does anybody, like, you relate to that? Like somebody gets in the car, you guys worship together all the time, but for some reason in the car, and it's like you have the radio control.
I think the word expectation, when you're riding along, you expect to get to that moment with God. When you walk in here on Sunday, you expect to get there with them.
Right.
When you walk, when you say, hey, let's go to, Burger King at the end of the road. I'm not sure what the expectation are. You're not sure what the expectation is. So, that's probably that awkwardness of trying to figure out the expectation. And I think if we got in the car and we said, "Hey, bro, we're about to worship.
We got to go."
Yeah.
So
I should do that then.
Yeah.
I should tell you at the beginning of the car ride.
Yeah, listen, man, this is where we're going with this. We go straight up worship.
Hey.
I think you got some people going with you.
Okay.
But I think we're wanting to be social too. So that's like a part of that. Like when I'm going to lunch with somebody, I'm wanting to have a conversation with you. I guess you can make the case that, worship, like corporate worshiping with somebody else, there's something awesome about that. But I think me saying, "Hey, pastor,"
which again goes back to expectation,
right?
Like, what's the expectation? Are we social here, or are we worshiping here?
Right.
Yeah.
Either way, I'm cool with it, but just let me know what my expectations are.
I've never had one person hop in the car with me and say, "Let's worship together."
Me neither, but I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, man, that'd be so cool.
All right, so next week we're going to all get in a car together, and we're going to go
Just
eat.
take a ride
we're going to
somewhere,
worship, and we get out. We're going to have some breaks.
The great thing about car rides with you guys is we have conversations like this.
Yeah.
Which to me are extremely healthy as well for everybody involved. So it's like, it's that balance of what is the most healthy in the moment. What do I really need? And so,
yeah. The second one was, you mentioned having time with God that doesn't, or having a lot of time with God that has no particular ending point. Like, you're not looking at the clock to see when it's over. I think about some of the most powerful moments that I've had in my life, and it's been stuff like that. It's been just blank space with God that has no end, no beginning, really. It's just time with God. What does that look like? Because I thought about it a lot of times, like in ministry, and how you even, like, the balance between there's a group of people and they need to go home at some point. But then the second part is like, at what point do we just let God just do whatever he wants for hours? That's kind of what I would say most of us grew up with. I grew up with that is if you want to leave the doors open, but we're going to stay here until
Terry.
Literally Terry until.
Again, I think this goes back to the word expectations. I think the expectation of me being there on Monday night prayer is, "Hey kids, I'm leaving you at home. We'll be home in an hour and a half. Dinner will be ready," whatever. So the expectation is, once you start hitting a certain number, oh no, I got to get the kids. What about this? What about that? And so because our expectations are, we'll be done in an hour, our heart, our mind, our bodies are conditioned to that, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
So I think the expectation of, hey, we're having a night of prayer and it's going to end whenever it ends, I have no clue when that is, I think would be really amazing.
I agree. That'd be so cool. But doesn't it? For some reason, it feels like a throwback. It feels like a vintage thing that like people used to do. But it's like, I feel like that the thought of that is like, yeah,
They used to do it because, again, culture has convinced us that watching TV is so valuable to our life. Like, man, you don't watch TV. Like, it's almost like I'm strange because
you didn't see that show.
I don't even know what show you're talking about,
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like we're weird because you're almost the weird. Nothing wrong with Amish people, but like, growing up, they were the, you're the weird Amish kid that doesn't have a TV in your house, No, it's not that. It's not that for me. It's, I would rather invest my time somewhere else. And so, yeah, I think there's a little bit of a weird cultural fight that we're fighting where 20 years ago, you didn't have TiVo. You didn't have on-demand TV. You didn't have, play any show you want to at any time. You had to be there at 8 to watch the show. If you didn't, you missed it and you were never seeing it, And so now the TiVo culture has allowed us to, at any point in time, to go sit in front of a TV and to watch all of the greatest episodes of all of the greatest shows. And it's just, it's taking our attention off of, we're calling it rest and taking our attention off of what true rest is. And we're sitting here exhausted because we're not resting.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait till Sunday to hear that. to hear the pin drops when you drop that mic right there.
There's gonna be one person at least yelling in that corner over there.
I'll yell with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, I do love having you right there beside me.
Hey, you know what he told me?
What?
He said, Phil, you've never preached me down. I said, that's a lie, bro. And that's like an offensive lie. I said, you hurt my feelings.
Because Phil's mama will preach you down. Phil's mama trained him right.
Yeah.
She was a preacher's friend on that front row.
Yeah, exactly. I said, Johnny, name one time you preached that I didn't preach you down, bro. I said that one time that you preached, you were so busy in your own head preaching yourself in the wrong direction that you didn't hear everybody preaching you.
That one time he got stuck and for 2 minutes just breathed into the microphone. And I was like, do I have to go up there and say, hey, buddy, we got this.
Hey,
You're good.
I relate hard to that. You remember the first time?
Absolutely.
I fell asleep on that thing. I said, God, thank you.
Oh my gosh. Nah, but what I was saying was I enjoy being over there with you in the corner, and hopefully getting the youth back in there it's cool to worship over there, and I get more pumped up because we have everybody over there.
And we're getting there.
We're getting there, yeah.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
That one Sunday, Palm Sunday,
yeah,
that was lit.
Yeah.
We got there.
They are excited to be back worshiping together. And again, worship is contagious, and that will flow through the entire congregation.
Yeah. And that's like such a part of our culture, to realize that we haven't had that for so long.
Yeah.
Is like, it's just weird to think about. Like the other day we had, like at the end of youth, we always used to get in a circle together and pray. And that became so part of what we were that like when we did it for the first time in a year.
I didn't even know y'all did that.
Yeah,
I was like.
Yeah, Johnny came in at the end of it.
I came in, we had to have I give you hand sanitizer. Like, that was my thing.
But Johnny came in at the end of it, and kids were literally like roaring. Like when we were like, we're gonna get in a prayer circle, they were like, yeah, we haven't done this forever.
What are y'all doing? Like,
They're so excited for it.
Y'all playing a game over here?
Right. But we had to do like a little arm behind the back.
I remember nights walking up and, wondering where my kid was, and walking up and, ready to leave and opening up the door and seeing kids just standing around praying still.
Yeah.
And man, I think adults get to the place to where life gets so busy that they stop hungering for the depths of God. And I think teenagers haven't been convinced yet. They haven't been convinced that things they read in Scripture can't happen, like some of the adults have. And so they're seeking and searching the deep things of God. And it's a really incredible age to help mold them and push them in the right direction. Yeah. Kids are hungry, man. Teenagers are hungry.
Yeah.
And I wish sometimes the parents would understand the amount of influence they have in their child's life if they saw the hunger from them, if they knew that that's how my parents felt about God.
So we can talk parenting here for a second, okay? I think parents will teach their kids things they value and things they don't value. Right?
Yeah.
And so everything else in between that they kind of value, it's up to the kids to learn on their own. So if a parent values eating healthy, they will teach their kid to eat healthy.
Right.
If a parent doesn't value church, they will teach their kid not to value church.
Right.
Everything else in between, let's say finances, handling debt, money, whatever. They'll never teach their kids that sort of stuff. So for every parent, it's different, whatever those things are. So for us, our family, we value spiritual things. It's something that we talk about every day. It's something that we're very passionate about. There's things that we don't value, that we're very passionate about not valuing those things, And so things in between, my kids have to figure out for themselves. You only have so much influence as a parent, and so you're going to use your influence over the stuff that you really value and the stuff you really don't value. And the rest they've got to figure out.
That's such a good way to put it. That makes a lot of sense. What would you say the main things that you would say in your house that you push hard, like spiritual things? What would follow that?
Respect. Respect is something that I talk about every day with my family. And respect is such a big word that, I guess the word love could be used there, but ultimately respect. It's about, I respect you, so I'm not going to say that. I respect other cultures. I respect other races. I respect other genders. Whatever the situation may be, I respect those things. So I'm going to react or act a certain way towards them because I respect them. So hopefully in talking respect, it helps to have conversations of racism and prejudices, and hopefully it has conversations of abuse and verbal and mental and physical abuse, and so it helps to lead into other areas. But for me, I'd say the big two things that we push are spiritual things and respect.
Yeah. Did you have something like that growing up? Did you have a main one?
Oh, I mean, yeah, spiritual things were always the main thing in our house, and honestly, that got me through all of the I guess you would say the bad in the teenage years, all the sin in my life and the bad decisions that I made as a teenager was my parents being faithful, my parents being strong Christian examples, and making me be a part of the local church even when I didn't want to be, and praying for me even when I didn't know they were praying for me, and showing me what it looked like to be a Christian, not just in church but also at the house and interacting with other people. And that's turned me into who I am today, is because of that investment they made in my life and valuing that. And I would also say the respect, loving the people they come in contact with, no matter who it was, not just in my parents but also in my grandparents and my family members who I had really close relationships with. I got to see what it really was like to to treat people the way they should be treated and respected, and even just the yes ma'am, the yes sir, the people in church who should be you honor those people, those people who have authority over you. So it was along the same thing as what you're talking about it. And
even my kids, how to address people. Respect looks people in the eyes. Respect shakes hands. Respect says yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir. Those things aren't meant to belittle you. They're meant to show respect to the person you're talking to or interacting with. So yeah, all of those sorts of things fall into that category for me.
Yeah. I like in these conversations, I start again like normal. I start to think about what I want to
invest in your children.
Yeah, what are going to be my big topics, and how would I push them? How would I think there was a lot of stuff that I soaked up, stuff like that. But I don't know if I would say that there were things that were like obviously spiritual things as a general topic, but I don't know if there was like a big few that were like constantly pushed to a place where like certain things that were like written on me, but definitely a lot of good stuff like that. So Baylor won. We all said Gonzaga.
Shocking.
I looked at last week. We all said Gonzaga.
Man, I went to bed actually. Caleb went over with you guys. Caleb hung out with you guys to watch the game, and I went to bed, and he walked in at 11:30 that night, and I was already asleep, and he's like, "Hey, Dad, Baylor won." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, they killed him.
Destroyed him.
Dominated
not
them the
even
whole
competitive.
time.
Which goes back to what I said. I didn't think anybody could make it a whole season undefeated.
And they scored the most points. This is my stat. Caleb will appreciate this. They scored the most points in the first half in a championship game since 2009.
Gonzaga did, or Baylor.
Baylor.
Wow.
That's how dominating of a performance, and I don't think I ever saw them down. I think from the get-go they had a goose egg at 9-0 or something like that. So
yeah, it was a crazy game.
Impressive.
Yeah, they were definitely dominating, and Gonzaga, you let us down. but we'll forgive you. Baylor, God's hand was on them.
So Harrison won the church bracket challenge.
Yeah, I need to look.
he
Look
did?
at.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I've got to talk to Jarrett now because now we got to dish out our gift cards to our teenagers.
Not that we gamble or anything, right?
No, none of that. No.
Why would you say that?
No gambling.
Cut that part.
Cut
Phil.
that out.
Cut
No.
that out, Phil.
I don't even know if it makes it better now that I say our students did it.
Dig in.
What does that do? I see Phil do this all the time. Clap.
Nah.
Is this still in there?
That don't
It's
do
still
nothing.
there. It's still there.
That don't do nothing.
Johnny we used to call it diarrhea of the mouth. Do y'all still call it that?
I mean,
Is that
it
a
makes
thing?
so much sense that I'm on board with
Willie has diarrhea of the mouth.
Willie.
over here.
No.
Willie is.
Oh, my God.
it. Really,
I
you
didn't,
keep going.
I didn't see anybody, but now the podcast wasn't YouTube last week. It was only on
It's
the app.
Yep.
Okay, so let's real quick give the Willie thing again, okay?
Yes.
Johnny has a new nickname. It's
New
Willie.
nickname Willie.
Willie
I
Kilman.
need you guys to just go up to him at church on Sunday and be like, "What's up, Willie?" He told us that his nicknames don't normally stick.
They don't.
He's like Teflon. Is that Teflon that nothing sticks to? So nicknames don't stick for him. So I need somebody to post on his wall and say, "What's up, Willie?" Like, I need y'all to buy into this, and I need his nickname to become Willie. Please,
My
help
email's
me.
a nickname, and
Help,
no one calls
help
me that.
help me, please. I need all hands on deck here. I need
do it.
somebody to help me change the future of Johnny Kilman to
If you
Willie
love Christy,
Kilman.
you will not call me Willie.
Well,
Well,
we
you said
love.
last week for everybody to call you
You
Willie.
did. You literally challenged them.
Yeah.
I bet 100 people won't post on my wall. Like, I don't care about that. I just want, when you see
I bet
him,
100
not to
people
see
won't
Johnny
do it.
Kilman. I want you to see Willie Kilman.
Willie. My name's Willie.
You want to sign us off, Willie?
Thanks for being here. Bye.
Nah, you can't.
Come on,
No,
come
that's
on.
terrible.
I don't. No,
Like,
I'm
they just watched us.
It's got to be personal.
They've just listened to us. We've just talked about rest. They are crying now, worshiping the
Are
Lord.
you guys crying right now?
Like, and you're see ya. Like, come on, Willie, you can do better than this.
Well, guys, I thank you so much for being here
There you go.
today.
Much
Yep.
better.
I'm glad we got to spend this time to kind of talk about
like
the
it.
things of God, and I hope the time you spent on this podcast made your life better in some way, shape, or form. We'll see you guys next week.
Love you guys.
See you guys.